Welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, and listen as we have a conversation about the mundane. I said conversation, kind of weird. One thing we promise, or we try to promise, is that our conversation will be less than fascinating, so you can feel free to just drift off. Thank you for joining us. We hope you will listen and sleep. I'm your host, Marco Timpano. Feel free to rate us on iTunes or SoundCloud, or tweet us at Listen and Sleep. Joining me on this episode is a very good friend of mine, director, writer, philanthropist, Matt Campagna. Welcome to the Insomnia Project.
Thank you, Marco. It's a pleasure to be here.
You can follow Matt at Matt Campagna. Look at our notes and you'll know how his last name is spelled. And you can check out one of the recent projects you did at #TacticalGirlsTV.
Absolutely. That's a hashtag you can follow on just about any part of social media. We've found our way in there.
It's amazing. And I was involved in that project too. But beyond that...
Couldn't have done it without you, Marco.
Oh, Matt. You and I have been involved in a few projects together.
I can't think of a project I've done where you weren't involved in it or an essential part behind the scenes to me getting something done.
And for our listeners who may have heard the episode where we talked about the inception of the Insomnia Project, Matt was involved with the Nuit Blanche art installation.
The art installation, right.
And Matt was the projectionist. So that's another title I didn't mention on your little bio there.
Right.
And Matt would project images onto a giant screen that could be seen from both inside the art installation and outside for passerbys.
It was essentially a visual stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
It was very fun.
And there was two images that you would project that I'll never forget. And one was rotisserie chickens. So that was projected.
Yeah, rotisserie chickens and bunnies
jumping over small fences.
Yeah,
so,
seeing those things just overlaid on top of each other. Nothing says I'm going to fall right asleep quite like
bunnies jumping
and
over.
rotisserie.
So, and the repetitive motion of that.
Yeah, very soothing.
But I wanted to talk to you not about film, not about rotisserie chickens, not about bunnies that jump over fences, although that can be a future podcast, but rather Hawaii.
And I would be delighted to talk about Hawaii. It's one of my favorite places on planet Earth.
And you just recently came back from a trip to Hawaii, correct?
Yeah, I've had quite a few for various reasons. Some professional, some, in fact, most personal. But, yeah, my most recent trip was just this past January. And it's a nice way to weather the winter, to take, 10 days off and be in Hawaii, be in literal paradise for, the time that your friends are dealing with snow back home.
Explain to me Hawaii. It's a series of islands. Everyone knows Hawaii, but we don't really know it unless clearly you're from Hawaii or you visited. You get a better understanding of it.
Well, geologically speaking, Hawaii is an archipelago of islands that is on a tectonic plate moving northward, which is to say one volcano has created every one of those islands. And so as the plate moves northward slowly over millions of years, you wind up with different mountains and ultimately different islands that come from that one magma spout. Now, that magma spout is at currently the southern tip of what's called the Big Island of Hawaii.
Okay.
And it's still active. You can see some absolutely beautiful sights of really the fires of creation.
Wow.
As magma is pouring into the ocean and steam clouds erupt and bright red fire is just being tamed by water as more acreage of Hawaii is being built as you watch.
Created. Wow. So does that mean there's only the Big Island has a volcano, or do the other islands have volcanoes as well?
The only active volcano is currently the southern tip of the Big Island.
See, I thought each island had a volcano. I don't know why, but this is one of the misconceptions I have of
You're
Hawaii.
kind of correct, actually, because each island was built by that same magma spout, by that same volcano. Mm-hmm. So take Maui, for example, which is an island that's to the north of the Big Island of Hawaii. Maui has 2 peaks on it, just like the Big Island, 2 peaks, but they're from a magma spout that it has long since moved away from.
I see.
So Maui runs no risk of exploding.
Okay.
In fact, the 2 Big Island peaks run no risk of exploding either, because the active magma spout is now at the southern tip. So Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, which are the 2 large peaks on the Big Island, neither one has active magma beneath it anymore, because the plates have been slowly moving ever northward, and that's essentially moved all of the archipelago, the entire cluster of the Sandwich Islands, as they were once called. They've all moved north and away from the active volcano.
That's cool.
It's pretty neat. I mean, rocks are only so interesting, but this is one of the moments where they get particularly interesting when they're, on fire. They're pretty neat.
So you mentioned Maui. What was your first impression when you saw Maui?
Because I saw Maui after I had seen the Big Island, and really the Big Island was my first impression of Hawaii, and it's...
So then let me ask you, what was your first impression of the Big Island?
Okay.
And is it the biggest of the islands?
It is.
Okay.
It is. Each island has its own name, and the funny thing about calling the Big Island is that that's not its name.
I see.
Its name is Hawaii.
Oh, I see.
And so, because it's the biggest one way or another, when they moved from the British nomenclature of the Sandwich Isles to the American nomenclature of the state of Hawaii, they decided to name the whole state after the largest landmass.
Okay.
Even though the capital is on the much smaller island of Oahu. So Honolulu, which is where like Waikiki Beach and all the familiar sort of 60s and 70s impression of Hawaii.
I'm picturing Frank Sinatra in a Hawaiian shirt.
You got it.
Okay.
The Mad Men Hawaii sort of image. That comes from a time when Oahu was like the island.
Okay.
Everything happened there. That's where Pearl Harbor is, on Oahu.
Right.
So like really all the action was for a good long time on Oahu. But slowly Maui wound up taking over as the sort of luxurious, expensive island.
Right.
So in the decades since then, Oahu feels a bit like Miami. A bit like, it's sort of like Toronto or Chicago. Like it's not a humongous, but not a small city.
Right.
But it's floating and has palm trees. So it feels a bit like Miami in that way.
That makes sense.
And, Maui, there's a lot more room to move around.
Okay.
But the Big Island that's a proper drive. Like, you can drive around most of these islands in a day.
I see.
The Big Island, you're looking at exhausting yourself trying to drive around that in a day.
Sure.
It's a lot. And most of the islands can be circumnavigated. Some of them are so rustic that the highways do not go all the way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you have to do? Hike or take another mode of transportation?
Well, on an island like Kauai, that is the northernmost island, the farthest one from Hawaii, it's where they shot Jurassic Park.
Okay.
So there is a corner of Kauai that is so rustic and so untamed that they didn't even try to run a road through it. So if you imagine the round-ish island as a clock, between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock, there's nothing.
Oh, I see.
It's just rugged Isla Nublar. It looks like Jurassic Park.
And that was the first one they filmed there?
Yes, that's where they filmed the first one. And they also filmed George Clooney's The Descendants there. A lot of films have shot. Tropic Thunder was shot there as well. There's just a lot of beautiful, untouched land that they can film there.
Sure.
And because of that sort of almost quarter of the island where there's no one living, there's no traffic. There's hippies living in funny little communes that you can hike for 8 hours to get to, but if it takes you 8 hours, it's not a particularly high traffic area.
Right.
So on an island like that, what my wife and I wound up doing was we stayed essentially at the continuing the clock metaphor, we stayed at about the 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So that would allow us to drive, north to get to the end of the island.
So the 12 o'clock?
Exactly. Or there we could drive south to get around to the 9 o'clock.
Right.
And each one would take us between an hour and an hour and a half. And so it was a nice central location to explore Kauai from. So we stayed in and around the town of Kapa'a.
Okay.
Now, you've probably noticed by now that I'm saying some really strange noises when I pronounce words like Hawaii when I say it Hawaii.
Right.
That's because the Hawaiian language has some really interesting aspects to it. It's only got like 14 letters that we would recognize as Roman noises, Roman letters and phonemes. But they have what looks like an apostrophe. They call it an okina.
Love it.
And so the cool thing about that is that there's 2 I's in the word Hawaii.
Right.
And that's because that okina exists between those 2 I's.
Oh, I never see it written like that.
Well,
I'm just, as Matt's talking, I'm going to do it for myself.
Right there between the 2 I's, there's an apostrophe. When native speakers or when Pacific Islanders, when people who are sensitive to the culture of Hawaii write the word, that okina, that apostrophe, lives in there. And what that means to the speaker when they read it is that there's a hard stop between those 2, usually vowels.
Right.
So Hawaii would let you know that there's that those 2 I's don't live together in a word like skiing.
Right.
Those 2 I's live together.
Right.
You wouldn't know that there's
a second I. If you
weren't
a native writer of English.
Exactly. But Hawaii has an okina there between the 2 I's. Maui is a smooth word. There are no okinas in there. But Kauai is spelled between that last A and I. There's an okina. So it's Kauai.
I see.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful language and a beautiful culture. They didn't have much of a written language when Captain Cook arrived in Hawaii for the first time. But since then, they've adapted English into a way to write the Hawaiian language as a written word. And they've taken about 14, if I recall, it's 14 letters from the English language. K is in a lot of things. M is there, and H. Hawaii is the way Hawaii is usually pronounced. So that W even exists more as a V for a lot of native speakers.
I see.
And so you really find out either how native someone wants to be or how Anglo they want to be based on how they pronounce those words. So, at an airport, you might tell the Air Canada or Delta steward that you're going to Hawaii.
Right.
But when you're ordering the spam omelet on the Big Island, you'll call it Hawaii.
I see.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
With almost 500,000 customers and over $1 trillion of secure payments, Bill isn't new to intelligent finance. It's the proven way to simplify bill pay and maximize cash flow. Want to learn more? Visit Bill.com/proven for a special offer.
To tip off this NBA season on FanDuel, you can choose your own rewards, which means you can play your game any way you want.
I get to choose my rewards?
Yep.
Great! Now, excuse me while I lock in.
All customers choose your own reward right now in the FanDuel app. 21 plus and present in select states. 18 plus in Kentucky. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirement, and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
So we spoke about rock, land, language. I'd like to know about the water.
Oh, the water. Okay, I learned to swim well before I learned to walk.
Oh.
So
You're like my wife, then. You're a water baby.
Oh, I am. I was born in a sign of water, and
haven't stopped since.
Yeah, basically, and I really do feel the best in water. And there's never in my life been a time where I was in better water than in Hawaii. Yeah.
Oh man.
And when I was little,
Look, what made it better? Before you go into what was it?
It's wild, and it behaves in such beautiful and unpredictable ways, and it feels so pure. I mean, honestly, the biggest worry I had when the reactors in Tokyo in Fukushima went was, oh no, Hawaii.
Right. Okay.
Because it's just such a beautiful, untouched, just striking, wild place. Mm-hmm. And you know, the spirit of aloha is something that the people of Hawaii speak about and live, really. That idea of welcoming people, of gratitude, of being a part of the land, and of appreciating what they have. And, you know, in certain cultures, that can come off as a kind of, I don't want to say laziness.
Sure.
But it can come off as a kind of contentedness.
Okay.
And so, you know, Hawaii's not the state that will put a man on Mars.
Right.
But it is the state that will bring calm and peace. It is the state that created Barack Obama.
Right.
You know, a very
Bette Midler.
Bette Midler. It has created some wonderful people. Keanu Reeves.
Was he born in Hawaii?
He's Hawaiian descent.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and so there are some really wonderful people and auras and philosophies that come out of Hawaii.
Very mystical. You were mentioning when you were a kid, and then I interrupted you.
Yeah, when I was small, I would spend time in the ocean off of North and South Carolina, in Florida, and then when I got older, I would go to the Caribbean, but nothing in the Dominican Republic, nothing in Jamaica, nothing on the east coast of America, nothing even in Canada, where we have some of the most rugged and beautiful land in the world. Nothing compares to the bays and the piers and the jetties and the just rugged beauty of Hawaii.
Wow.
It's incredible.
What about the flora?
The flora is pretty incredible in its own way. There are parts.
Everyone knows the lei when you go to Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of flowers. Is it a particular flower?
It really comes down to who's building the lei.
Oh, I see.
You can find leis made out of stones, even.
Really?
Yeah.
Stone?
Stone lei. Yeah. It really is a sign of welcoming and a sign of being a part of something new and being brought into it.
Okay.
And what I found with the flora is that Hawaiians are very connected to that which grows around them.
Okay.
And so it's not uncommon in Hawaii, if you're on a hike through the wilderness, to find places where a person has left an offering.
Okay.
To maybe their personal spirituality, but maybe to the god of the island of the volcano Pele, where you'll find some flowers that have been picked and some leaves that have been laid out in a really artistic, beautiful way. And it's someone who came in that space before you, and you can tell by the freshness of that offering.
Okay.
How far behind that person you might be. It's like the spiritual leavings of the person before you. It's quite beautiful to see the way people appreciate and offer the island unto itself.
Now, do you see a lot of these flowers as you're doing these hikes, or are these flowers that people would bring with them? And did anything strike you as, wow, that's very different than the flora of my native land?
There were parts of, specifically on this recent trip to Kauai, there were parts of it that felt a little bit like being in Rattlesnake Point,
okay,
near the Niagara Peninsula in Toronto, outside of Toronto, in the Greater Toronto area.
Isn't it Mississauga, Rattlesnake?
It begins the area sort of starts near Milton and works its way south and then a little bit east down towards Buffalo, basically.
Okay.
It's a pretty impressive space that I went to a lot when I was younger. And there were moments where I was surrounded by palm trees in Kauai, and then I would round a bend. And because of the way trade winds affect, especially the oldest island of Kauai, the amount of foliage that would change as you turn a corner was amazing. Like, you would feel like you were in a whole new forest every 10 minutes. The elevation would affect what you were surrounded by. The trade winds would affect how the seeds were populating one way to another. The pollination in Hawaii is remarkable. That it goes from island to island is shocking. Often it's carried by birds.
Oh,
That's
okay.
how a lot of the islands were populated and cross-pollinated with flora and fauna. A lot of things were just brought by birds.
Sure. Actually, that's what the next thing I was going to go to. But I will say this, that if you have allergies and you go to Hawaii, you should probably bring some meds.
There is something in Hawaii called VOG, which is a combination of volcanic smoke,
V.
which is where the V comes from, and essentially water vapor, fog.
Okay. I was
And
gonna say
so, Og?
hug.
And so that volcanic fog can really mess with your sinuses, especially if you're prone to any kind of sinus problems or have any sort of allergies. My wife in particular, she found having some antihistamines were helpful. I don't really have many allergic sensitivities
Sure.
that I'm aware of, but even I wasn't sure if I was getting sick. And I was
Right.
like, there's like something in the back of my throat,
Right.
like my,
It's a bit
I
of
couldn't tell.
VOG in the
It's
back
like,
here.
yeah, I got a VOG in my throat. And it got to the point where if it wasn't for the wonderful lady at the reception desk of our hotel, I would have just assumed I was getting sick
Right.
and never got sick. So it was a strange thing. Although I must say, the flight home, if you have sort of that foggy sinus congestion happening, can be uncomfortable. So you
Okay.
want to make sure that you're prepared for the pressure and depressurization and repressurization
Wow.
that you're going to be affected by in a flight like that.
So we talked about flora. We got to talk about fauna. Did you see any cool animals while you were there?
I've got to say, the strangest thing about Kauai is that they have chickens everywhere.
Really?
It's weird. I've been to a lot of Hawaiian Islands
Mm-hmm.
and spent a decent amount of time on them, and never had anyone ever mentioned to me that there are wild chickens running through the streets of Kauai.
Amazing.
Like pigeons in New York. It was... At first, I was sleeping, and at about 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, there was a full moon, and I thought nothing of the fact that a rooster crowed. And I was
Oh.
like, oh, there must be a farmer nearby
Right.
who, his chickens are confused because the full moon is out.
Sure.
All right, no big deal. Oh no, nobody owns that chicken. I found out the next day. There are just hundreds and hundreds of not ugly chickens. These are Portuguese fighting cocks.
Oh, really? So they're serious. Like, you don't mess with these
Well,
chickens.
they're pretty... I wouldn't call them like rabid or feral
Right.
necessarily, but they know that they own the
Yeah.
island.
Well, chickens are not they're serious fowl. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't mess with a chicken.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks it's like, on a farm. Oh, look how nice a chicken. No,
Yeah,
when
when you put chickens close to each other, man, they're
That's
made of
a-
sharp.
yeah,
they got
it is.
sharp claws. They got sharp beaks.
the rooster's cone or whatever it's called
Yeah.
is not,
But I must say, they are beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
These Portuguese fighting cocks that got loose in the last 20 years because hurricanes hit the islands and destroyed coops that normally were keeping the
right.
chickens perfectly, controlled. There is no mongoose population on the island of Kauai, and a mongoose is the only thing that can keep a chicken population in check.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought snakes would be able to.
Apparently, the mongoose is the natural predator
Wow.
of the chicken, and because there is not a single mongoose on the island of Kauai, Chickens rule, man.
Yeah, and mongooses take care of, or I don't know if it's mongoose, but a mongoose will kill a snake too.
Oh, I believe that.
Just on a side note,
Yeah.
in case anybody has a pet mongoose.
A
And
mongoose is like an alpha predator.
you don't
man.
want to mess with a mongoose.
One day there'll be a Godzilla movie where he has to take out like Mongoose.
Is there
be
any,
huge?
Is there any superhero that has mongoose ness to them? Because
Well,
that'd be a cool superhero.
The funny thing is, a Wolverine is not a particularly like wolf-like creature.
Right.
So I'd say a Wolverine is probably the closest thing to a
No, but a
mongoose you're
Wolverine
gonna
is
find.
not. A Wolverine is okay. We're not going to get into this, Matt. We'll do another episode where we talk about superheroes because
We could go down that road for a while.
and we won't. Let's talk about the food.
Okay, the amazing thing about Hawaii is that there
All the food comes in from other places.
Well,
no,
it's
I'm
funny.
kidding.
It's funny because in a way, from an intellectual sense, it does.
Oh, really?
I mean, the Hawaiian culture is a beautiful amalgam of Pacific Islanders plus the Japanese plus the British plus the Chinese plus the Portuguese. And it's funny how many places in Hawaii you can find chorizo sausage.
Oh.
It is everywhere. Chorizo sausage and Spam are about the two most common forms of non-aquatic meat you're going to find.
Okay.
Yeah, oddly enough, chicken, not that common.
Really? You think?
They're running all over the place.
Yeah.
Nobody's eating them.
Wow.
They're the most relaxed chickens you'll find.
See, I never understood that. Like, I know there's wild boars that like run rampant in places like Texas and whatnot.
Oh, there's some wild boars in Hawaii.
And the Italian in me is like, let's have a pig roast.
Yeah,
because
there's
no-
porchetta right
you're
there.
right there, and then
Mhm.
you've got wild chicken. I mean, come on. Like,
Dinner's knocking on your door.
Matt, I want to thank you so much for talking to us about Hawaii.
Oh, it's been my pleasure reliving every moment.
Or Hawaii's, I'll start saying it. I'm going to do a part 2 on Hawaii with your wife. So I want to thank you for this. Stay tuned for an episode where Matt and I discuss superheroes, because if there's ever a sort of masterclass in that, you could certainly teach it. Once again, you can follow Matt at Matt Campagna and #TacticalGirlsTV to check out that series. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Marco.
As always, the Insomnia Project is produced by Drumcast Productions, and this episode was recorded in Toronto, Canada.